Excerpts and summarized portions of Chapter 8 of To Kill a Mockingbird by Harper Lee, narrated by Greducator. Miss Maudie's house across the street catches fire one cold winter night. Atticus wakes the children and gets them out of the house for safety, and they watch the attempts to put out the fire. With a push, Atticus started us toward the Radley front gate. We stood watching the street fill with men and cars while fire silently devoured Miss Maudie's house. The old fire truck, killed by the cold, was being pushed from town by a crowd of men. When the men attached its hose to a hydrant, the hose burst and water shot up. "Oh, Lord, Jem." "Hush, Scout," he said. "It ain't time to worry yet. I'll let you know when." The men of Maycomb, in all degrees of dress and undress, took furniture from Miss Maudie's house to a yard across the street. I saw Atticus carrying Miss Maudie's heavy oak rocking chair, and thought it sensible of him to save what she valued most. The fire was well into the second floor, and had eaten its way to the roof. Window frames were black against a vivid orange center. "Don't worry, Scout. It ain't time to worry yet," said Jem. He pointed. "Look a-yonder." In a group of neighbors, Atticus was standing with his hands in his overcoat pockets. He might have been watching a football game. Miss Maudie was beside him. "See there, he's not worried yet," said Jem. "You think we ought to make him get our stuff out?" "Let's don't pester him. He'll know when it's time," said Jem. The Abbotsville fire truck began pumping water on our house. In the heat between our house, Miss Rachel's, and Miss Maudie's, the men had long ago shed coats and bathrobes, but I became aware that I was slowly freezing where I stood. Jem tried to keep me warm, but his arm was not enough. I pulled free of it and clutched my shoulders. By dancing a little, I could feel my feet. Miss Maudie's tin roof quelled the flames. Roaring, the house collapsed. Fire gushed everywhere. It was dawn before the men began to leave, first one by one, then in groups. They pushed the Maycomb fire truck back to town. The Abbotsville truck departed. The third one remained. Jem and I slid across the street. Miss Maudie was staring at the smoking black hole in her yard, and Atticus shook his head to tell us she did not want to talk. He led us home, holding onto our shoulders to cross the icy street. He said Miss Maudie would stay with Miss Stephanie for the time being. "Anybody want some hot chocolate?" he asked. As we drank our cocoa, I noticed Atticus looking at me, first with curiosity, then with sternness. "I thought I told you and Jem to stay put," he said. "Why, we did. We stayed." "Then whose blanket is that?" "Blanket?" "Yes, ma'am, blanket. It isn't ours." I looked down and found myself clutching a brown woolen blanket I was wearing around my shoulders. "Atticus, I don't know, sir. I turned to Jem for an answer, but Jem was even more bewildered than I. He said he didn't know how it got there. We did exactly as Atticus had told us. We stood down by the Radley gate, away from everybody. We didn't move an inch. Jem stopped. "Mr. Nathan was at the fire," he babbled. I saw him. He was tugging that mattress. Atticus, I swear." "That's all right, son." Atticus grinned slowly. "Looks like all of Maycomb was out tonight, in one way or another. Jem, there's some wrapping paper in the pantry, I think. Go get it, and we'll—" "Atticus, no, sir!" Jem seemed to have lost his mind. He began pouring out our secrets, right and left, in total disregard for my safety if not for his own, omitting nothing, knot-hole, pants, and all. Mr. Nathan put cement in that tree, Atticus, and he did it to stop us findin' things. He's crazy, I reckon, like they say. But, Atticus, I swear to God, he ain't ever harmed us. He ain't ever hurt us. He could 'a' cut my throat from ear to ear that night, but he tried to mend my pants instead. He ain't ever hurt us, Atticus. Atticus said, "Whoa, son," so gently that I was greatly heartened. It was obvious that he had not followed a word Jem said, for all Atticus said was, "You're right. We'd better keep this and the blanket to ourselves. Some day, maybe, Scout can thank him for covering her up." "Thank who?" I asked. "Boo Radley. You were so busy looking at the fire, you didn't know it when he put the blanket around you." My stomach turned to water and I nearly threw up when Jem held out the blanket and crept toward me. "He sneaked out of the house, turned round, sneaked up, and went like this. 'Just think, Scout,' he said, 'if you'd just turned around, you'd 'a' seen him.'"